Hello, this is wmpyr here to talk about Filipino martial arts as a curriculum, just to help you understand, those of you that are interested in learning Filipino martial arts, this will give you kind of like a game plan, an understanding of the style. So here, let me go ahead and start right here. So the first one is FMA. FMA stands for Filipino Martial Arts. So this is kind of like JMA, Japanese martial arts, or Korean martial arts, or Chinese martial arts. There's a lot. If you look at Japanese martial arts, there's Aikido, there's Kendo, there's sumo wrestling, there's Judo, there's Karate, there's Shorin Jikempo. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So same thing with Filipino martial arts. There is a lot. However, the one that I specifically learned was Kali, Eskrima, and Arnis. These three is actually the same thing, okay? That's one of the biggest problems in Filipino martial arts is we have a bunch of names for the same thing. So it can be very confusing. And I've done my best to try to eliminate that as much as possible. But I find even myself, like a couple of years ago, I called the same thing something else than from today. So I apologize for that. I am trying to eliminate that, just to make the learning process easier. It's confusing for me like crazy, so I don't want to do that to you guys. Now there is other Filipino martial arts, because like I said, this Kali, Eskrima, Arnis is pretty much one style, okay? There are other styles. For example, the two other most important to me is Filipino dirty boxing and Filipino wrestling, okay? There's more, but I am not familiar with the other stuff. There's plenty more. There's some that, you know, combine and people are making their own stuff all the time. But like I said, I am not familiar with those other ones, all right? So now, as far as Kali, Eskrima, Arnis goes, now we're talking about a very specific thing of Filipino martial arts. Okay, this is the main weapons for training. So single stick, double stick, and then we're talking about training knife or knife in standard grip, which means basically pointing upwards, and then reverse grip, which basically means the knife is pointing downwards, okay? So that, and then the last one is empty hand. So this is the main. Now, this differs from school to school. Some schools, they may only do sticks, that's it, and they don't do anything else. Other schools, they might do all three, but their main focus is the knife. Now, other schools may focus more on empty hand. It just depends. And there's more weapons. So some schools may focus on a completely different weapon. My Filipino martial arts teacher, his teacher, the original guy from the Philippines, that guy, Professor Remy Presas, one of his main weapons, from my understanding, was a balisong. He really, really liked the balisong. He's really, really good at it, from my understanding. So, balisong, aka butterfly knife. So, you know, it just depends from school to school. Okay, so just want to let you guys know that. So next is, now that you know what the tools are, all right, now, like I said, there's more, but these are the main, and I think I'm pretty safe in saying that. Next is, these are the skills that you're going to develop using these tools. So the skills are right here, okay? Number one is you're going to develop stick skills. Now it doesn't matter if it's knife skills or empty hand skills, you're going to start with the stick. Usually 90% of the time in Filipino martial arts, the stick is the main thing. Even if the goal is a sword or a machete or whatever, we're going to do a lot of sticks. So from day one, single and double sticks. So that's number one, stick skills. Number two is the footwork skills. So we put the sticks down on the ground, create diamond patterns, triangle patterns, zigzag patterns, and we work on footwork. So those are all skills. I've said to you guys before, footwork is a technique. It's no different than any of these to me. So that's the way I view it. Number three, arm tapping. Now, I've called this by other names. In Wing Chun, they call Chi Sao sticky hands. In JKD, they call it trapping. In Karate, they call it Kaki-e. To me, it's all the same thing. Basically, there's differences, of course, but generally speaking, we're all talking about the same thing. It's when your arm and the other guy's arm is entangled. It's arm on arm, okay? So I just call it arm tapping. So this is a skill, and we work on this a lot. It's highly, highly controversial because a lot of people will say that stuff doesn't work in real life. How come we don't see it in boxing? How come we don't see it in kickboxing? Those are good arguments, okay? But this is one of the areas, even though it's controversial, it is taught in Filipino martial arts, and I teach it, of course, and this is one of the more complex areas of learning. Some people they don't know it, even though they do Filipino martial arts. It is definitely one of the harder to learn because it looks so complex. It's very complex. Okay, so arm tapping. I'm not saying because it's complex, it's the best out of all the skills, or it's the best stuff. No, I don't think so. But I'm just saying it is trickier to learn. Next is lock flow. Okay, so lock flow is basically you're going from one joint lock to the next. It's not limited to joint locks because we have takedowns, we have throws, we have chokes. There's other stuff there. But generally speaking, it's a joint lock from one to the next. You're just flowing from one lock to the next. So that's, once again, is a skill. All of these right here are a skill. It doesn't mean that you practice the skill, you're ready for combat. No, they're skills. It's like being good with the yo-yo or being good with the piano. Those are all skills, all right? It doesn't mean that you're ready to go play, a live event. That's a little different. So please keep that in mind. This is the skills that we're developing with these tools. Okay, so that's the general idea. Of course, it changes from school to school. Some schools may not do one or two or three of these things, or they might, but they focus more on other areas and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. Generally speaking, in Kali, Eskrima, Arnis, we do all of this. So next in the green, I want to talk about theory. So this is, to me, the basic theory in most Kali, Eskrima, and Arnis schools, okay? And that's what this is a general idea of the curriculum that you're going to face. So flow is the most important theory, or should I say principle. The idea of flow for a beginner, you should be focusing on developing natural speed, so you're flowing in your movements. That's what you want to do, rather than forcing speed. You see someone who's good with this stuff and you go, I want to be like them. So you try to, go faster and stuff. That's not the way to go. You got to go natural. You want to flow. Make it look effortlessly. So that is the idea there, okay? So keep that in mind. The word flow, though, goes much, much deeper than that. And ultimately, I think it goes alongside with what Bruce Lee was saying, which was be like water and adapt. So you like I said, the word flow, the concept of that goes way, way deeper. So next is transfer. The theory of transfer is we're working with the sticks and we're going to transfer these skills to other weapons like the knife, empty hand, or if you're talking about improvised weapons, a baseball cap, a t-shirt, a car antenna, just whatever you can find. You're going to transfer your stick skills to that. So the idea of Filipino martial arts is that, because there are other styles that use a similar size stick, a similar length stick, like in Japan, in ninjutsu, they'll teach like hanbo, which means a half stick, and it's similar in size to the Eskrima Kali stick, right? Now that being said, in the Filipino martial arts, I feel like they've collected a bunch of moves specifically that you could only really develop with the stick. Like if you try just from empty hand, it's hard to learn some of these techniques. If you immediately start it with a knife, it's very difficult to learn this stuff. This is learned from the sticks. You know what I mean? So it's stick-specific skills. I'm not saying it's better than knife-specific or empty hand-specific, but Filipino martial arts sticks is such a main ordeal. I feel like they collected specialized moves that you learn from the sticks, and now we're applying it to the knife. Now we're applying it to empty hand, you know. So that's kind of the way that I see it. Is the main idea is you're transferring your stick skills, all right? So number 3 is an add-on style. So not every school is this way. There are some, like I think there's a world famous instructor who does Kali, and maybe more than just one. I mean, there's probably plenty that might have this view where Kali is the best style on the planet, and you know, we teach 100% pure Kali, and we don't integrate, mix with anything else, and therefore it's the best, and whatever. And I just don't come from that lineage or school of thought, you know. My teacher was, his main style was Kuksul Wan. And he learned Filipino martial arts as an add-on style. So he added it on to his Kuksul Wan, and he mixed other styles too. But that's the main idea there. And so he learned it from Professor Remy Presas. And from my understanding, Professor Remy Presas traveled the world doing seminars, and he traveled with a karate instructor and also a jiu-jitsu instructor, and he incorporated their stuff into his style. So, you know, he mixed, and he taught Filipino martial arts that way. He said to people, please, you know, you're a Taekwondo guy, please add Filipino martial arts to your arsenal. You know, oh, you're a wrestler, please add Filipino martial arts to your wrestling. You know, so it was taught to me as an add-on style. Okay. The next one is the 4 ranges of combat. This is the last one for theory, right? 4 ranges of combat is long range, medium range, close range, and ground range. And I'm going to repeat this over and over because it is such an important theory or principle. The basic idea is that combat takes place in one of those 4, and so you better know how to fight, at least in one of those 4 ranges. And now, once again, schools, from lineage or whatnot, it depends, because some schools may focus on long range. They're like, that's our specialty. We fight in long range. You know, other schools may focus on medium range. And other schools might be well balanced. They do all 4. And like I remember one of the guys that I used to train Kali and Eskrima with in college, he was a military guy. This dude, his specialty was in close range. So he was doing a lot of the arm tapping and lock flow stuff. So that was his specialty, you know. So it just depends on the individual, but, you know, that's the 4 ranges of combat, okay? So the next thing is, now that you have the theory there, is the methods of training. How do you train? So the first one is this. So now the purple, you have solo training. Solo training is you training by yourself, and so you're doing the forms at home. You could be watching videos and stuff and practicing, you know, getting the movements down, working on becoming more ambidextrous, you know, and whatnot, becoming more smooth. The next one is target training, where you're actually hitting something. And I highly recommend getting like a solid chair like this and just putting a bunch of like a mattress, a pillow over it, towels over it, and then practice hitting that, making actual contact, okay? So that's your target training. In the Philippines, what's common is they hit tires. And like for me, I have a chain, and I hang a tire and I hit that. That's my target training. And I also like to hit a bunch of cardboard boxes. I got tons of those. Can work on blades, throwing and cutting and stabbing, and, you know, that kind of stuff too. So next is partner training. Okay, so partner training stuff. You know, I do think it is very, very important to do partner training, because after all, you know, you are going to be facing, if you're doing this for self-defense, a real human being. So you want to get used to real human being movements. So that is important. And then so you take that a little bit more to the extreme, and now we have sparring. Okay, so so with partner training, you could do drills. And then now you have sparring, which, you know, it doesn't have to be you versus me, let's go at it. No, that's not necessarily sparring, you know, that's just fighting. So sparring could be much, much more controlled, you know, but you get to feel what it's like to go up against another human being that's plotting against you, that is trying to do their stuff on you, that is also resisting your stuff. So that's very important. Or just a human being that's moving around. So that's where a sparring experience comes from. And the next one is competition. Okay, a lot of people tend to look down on competition. I don't know why. You know, to me, competition is nothing more than sparring taken to the extreme. Okay, so all the anxiety and feelings you have in sparring, competition, it's going to be more. You know, you're going to be more nervous. It's going to be more intense. You know, that kind of thing. So that's competition. Okay, so that pretty much covers everything on here. I actually teach all of this, except I don't do the sparring or the competition. If I did sparring and competition, would I get better? Sure, I'm sure I would. But at this day and age, you know, where I'm 40 plus, health is much more important to me than trying to become a better fighter. So it's just, it is what it is at this point. I feel like I already did my sparring. I didn't compete in Filipino martial arts, but yeah, I'm just like, it is what it is. That's fine. You know, if I don't get better than I am now, that's okay. So I'm willing to let go of that. So yeah, but everything else on here, I do. I practice for me, and I also teach it. But I also have my own style, the wmpyr fighting system or method or whatever. But in the wmpyr fighting, this is the main. Okay, so the Filipino martial arts is the main, and I use this, what you're seeing right here, as a base, and then I evolved or arranged it for me, you know, changed things or added things. So off of this, you know, more weapons or, you know, whatnot, I added stuff here, sticks, I added stuff, footwork here, you know, I added stuff or changed it, evolved it, you know, and by evolve, I don't mean that it's better, I just mean it's geared more for me, you know, and same with the theories, I you know, changed it. I didn't want to show you guys my stuff yet because I wanted to give you this, you know, the basics right here. Not basics, I'm sorry. The general understanding of Filipino martial arts. And I didn't want it to get confused with my interpretation, my notes and whatnot. But this, I think, is pretty safe all across the board for Filipino martial arts. Of course, there's give and take. There's exceptions. There's, you know, it depends on the school and the teacher and stuff, but that's the general idea as far as Filipino martial arts go. And you could go in much, much deeper into each one of those things that I described here. Like, you know, just like with arm tapping alone, there's people that, like, my teacher's teacher, Professor Remy Prestos, was doing some just stuff that looked inhuman as far as like disarms and arm tapping stuff goes. You know, this crazy joint locks and stuff that he would just pick and find just out of nowhere and do stuff like that, you know. So, you know, each one of these you could go very, very, very deep. But overall, I think Filipino martial arts that's fairly condensed, you know, like boom, there it is. That's Filipino martial arts. That's the curriculum. I like that. I like that it's not very complex. I think it makes it easier to learn, quick to learn, but it's still deep. Some other styles, if you try to do this, it's going to be much, much bigger, and it's going to be a lot more stuff. And for me, you know, I get discouraged by that. I'm not, you know, the smartest person on the planet, so I would be like, whoa, that's way complex. But for Filipino martial arts, it's one of the things that I really, really liked about it was its simplicity. You know, just saying. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it worked. That worked for me. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and take care, folks.